Hello, and welcome back to another Mission Control, a podcast focusing on executive directors and nonprofit leaders and how they strive to make positive impacts in their community. I'm your host, Paul J Schmidt, owner and creative video strategist for UnoDeuce Multimedia. And I would love to welcome my next guest, good friend of mine, executive director of TWIGS, Beth Read. Good morning, Beth. How are you?
Good morning, Paul. Good. How are you?
Oh, I just said morning, but that's okay. That's where we are. I don't know when people will see this, but hey, that's the way it goes. So the first thing we do at the top of the show is being that the name of the show is Mission Control. Tell me what the mission is of TWIGS.
Our mission at TWIGS is to lift the everyday burdens from cancer patients and their families so that they can concentrate on healing and spending time with loved ones.
Perfect. I guess the next thing is I was hoping that you'd throw in what TWIGS stood for in that blurb, but let's go into that. What does TWIGS stand for?
It stands for To Work in Grateful Service. It was actually my mother's nickname given to her by brother in high school, which is why I named it TWIGS. And I started this organization in her honor, and so that was my way of paying homage to her without naming it directly after her, which I don't think she would have cared for.
And so I hear we got a guest with you.
We do.
Who's your guest with you?
That's Murphy. Murphy is trying to be a good boy.
It's all good. It's all good, Murphy. But so you talked about your mom and that you based the name of your organization on her nickname, but why did you start this nonprofit? What was because you're the founder, you're the executive director, you are the head honcho. Why did you start this? Why?
My mother was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. It was 9 years ago or so. And she was given a year to live upon diagnosis, and she made it almost 3. And because my parents had the type of things that we provide people, like rides to appointments and housekeeping services and yard care, my time spent with my mother was spent watching her be a grandmother and just relishing in the moments we had together, because we knew time was so precious and it was limited. So that's why I started TWIGS, because I saw a need in our community where people didn't have these services provided for them, or couldn't afford these services.
And what are the services? Let's just go into the nitty-gritty of what you guys, the nuts and bolts.
We provide rides to appointments, housekeeping services, yard care, and errand runs.
When did you start this organization?
We are coming up on our 4-year anniversary. So 4 years 501c3 official. I had started doing the paperwork and getting things ready, and then COVID hit and they lost our paperwork. And so we were delayed a little bit. But it's been 4 years now that we've been actually up and running.
So you started a nonprofit organization in the midst of COVID.
I did, right towards the end, really, or the end of the shutdown part of it, but yes.
So was this also, well, let's look at the positive things about starting a nonprofit in the midst of COVID. Did it allow you to help you in the organization aspect of it?
It did. It really helped us to slow down and think strategically about how we would do this and how it would work. So it was a slow, let's help one person and see what this looks like. How do we grow this sustainably? And how do we do this in a way that we aren't overshooting our shot, so to speak?
Okay. And so, who did you get to be involved with this? I mean, you obviously, you probably, family, friends. Who did you turn to bounce this idea off of, number one, and then also help you execute it?
Well, I first turned to the library. I'm an English major, so I was like, what does this look like and how is this done? And then my dear friend Kate, who's been on my board since day one, her mom had breast cancer. And so she understood the importance of this, right? We're both young moms with young kids and we're trying to take care of our parents and also take care of our families. And so I was like, what do you think? Like, do you think this is needed? And on top of that, she does housekeeping for a living. So it was an added bonus to get her perspective on that as well. And she's like, yeah, I think you're onto something here. And so then from there, I just proceeded to surround myself with people who either knew something that I didn't or I wasn't good at, or had personal experiences with cancer so that they could help spread the mission and make it known why this stuff was important.
And do you have a experience in nonprofits before? Did you have experience in nonprofits before?
No, none, absolutely none.
so so the so the decision was really a shot in the dark.
It really was. I mean, I am methodical about everything I do. So I didn't just go into it blindly. I knew what I was getting into and I did a lot of research. But yeah, I had never done this before. I've run a business before, but not a nonprofit. And I certainly have been learning along the way of, how this runs, what this looks like, how hard it is to run a nonprofit. But so far, we seem to be pretty successful. So I'm happy about that.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the fact that you have run a business and been self-employed for quite some time. And, how do you feel like that really helped you in the development of this organization?
When I look back at my career, and I've had various jobs, and the latest one, I hold a real estate license and I've done interior design. I have various managers and various ways of learning. And then I was a manager for a while. And so I kind of took all the experience that I had operating either business from the managerial side and in corporate America, or managing myself as a business owner and what that looks like, and customer service skills and all those things, and kind of helped me to lead. You have to be able to lead, and that's a skill that you can develop, but it takes time. And I think in order to be an effective leader, you have to have empathy and understanding, and especially when everybody who quote unquote works for you is a volunteer. You really need to be patient and understanding and thankful for whatever they do for you. And I think the biggest takeaway from that I learned over the course of the years is if you don't know something, you need to surround yourself with people who do. And so if there was something I didn't know in my prior career, I reach out to the people that had been in the industry longer, or my broker, or whoever it was, and then learned as much as I could from them so I could be better at my job. And so I try to do that with TWIGS as well.
And I know that, you decided to, you're no stranger to putting yourself out there, and you put yourself out there again with this organization. What you mentioned, a little bit of, there's some struggles that or hurdles. Let's say that hurdles that you're gonna encounter. And so, what were some of the initial hurdles that you were like, I didn't see this coming? What is this?
I didn't. So I guess some of them were more expected than others, but a couple off the bat where I didn't expect people to be so hesitant to receive help, which is ironic because I'm one of those people. But I also, that was a big challenge at first, getting the word out there and you have to be trustworthy to have people want you to help them. So making sure our name was a trustworthy name and we built the right relationships with the right people so people could say, yeah, they're legit, you can ask them for help, was a challenge. And that was something to overcome. Asking people for money all the time, because that's what you have to do as a nonprofit, is challenging. You have to really believe in your cause. You have to really know that the work you're doing is vital to the community, because you can get burnt out very easily. And you can feel like kind of like a used car salesman if you aren't careful about how you approach things. And so that's an ongoing challenge, I think, for any nonprofit, is finding funding. But I think the biggest takeaway is knowing every day that that ask is important, right? And not it's not a it's not a bad thing to ask. Again,
Mhm.
it kind of goes
Mhm.
back to asking for help, which is full circle for me, right? I have have other people ask me for help, and now I am having to learn to ask for help to help them. So
Well, I mean, it makes a lot of sense. Did any of your time in interior design or real estate, did you use any of the tactics you had to use to build relationships with the customer base help in that regard at all?
I mean, yes, because you have to sell yourself when you're a business owner, right?
Hmm.
And so whether it be a designer or a realtor, you have to sell that you're the best person for the job. Um, and in this role, I've had to not only be very open and vulnerable about my loss and my experience as a daughter of a cancer patient, but also let people in and be vulnerable on how much this means to me. And that was not an easy thing for me. I am not good in the limelight. That is not my normal place to be. I don't enjoy it. But knowing that that's what drives people to want to support you, I do it, and the same went for real estate or design. I knew I was good at it, but I had to prove that and I had to sell myself. And I think it helped me kind of get a little bit more confidence. And to be honest, this was an easier ask because I am so passionate about what we do.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I mean, I know that I'm biased because I know what your organization does and how you do it and how you work. But it is amazing, the story, and I think that's one of the big things is the story and the stories that your volunteers bring. And let's talk about your volunteers. Uh, how how uh, how has that been going? Trying to get volunteers. I know that sometimes some other um, one of the struggles that some nonprofits have is to get quality volunteers and consistent volunteers. How has that worked for you?
I honestly think that's our biggest win this last year. So initially, I was doing all the volunteering partially because I needed to know. When I was a manager, my what I always told my associates or anybody working for me was, I'll never ask you to do something I won't do myself. I don't believe it's effective leadership to work any other way. And so I was the one that was going into the houses and cleaning. I was the one that was weeding the gardens. I was the one that was taking people to and from appointments. I needed to be able to say, this is what this looks like, and this is how we do this. Um, and then it got to be busy. And we were um, able to get a couple of volunteers really helping with rides, which is our main volunteer part of our organization, and they all have personal cancer stories, which is amazing because they can relate to these folks that they are helping, and that really makes it special for the people we help. But even then, a lot of those folks had jobs, and so I was still doing the majority of the rides, which was great because it's honestly one of my favorite things to do. However, I also have to run the business. And so
Mhm.
I was blessed, or we were blessed as an organization that David Andrews featured us on WILX. And all of a sudden, I was able to reach the target market of volunteers, which is retired folks. And since then, our volunteer base has grown so much to the point where they're fighting over who gets to take the next shift. Like I'll have 3 or 4 people that are like, "No, we'll do it, we'll do it," and it's wonderful. And I reach out to them, and I just think, God, I could hug every one of these people, right? I mean, here they are donating their time to me and what my passion is and our mission, and they're just amazing. Every single one of them, amazing human beings.
Yeah, and so now you've mentioned a couple of things that at one point you were doing all the volunteer work. You're also building this organization, plus you have a family, plus you obviously have to create some income as well. How are you doing all of that? What does your schedule look like, and how is your family like not going crazy as well?
Uh, I think my kids are just used to it. No, mom's got to do this. Mom's got to do that. They're pretty resilient
Yeah.
children. I don't know what it looks like to not have 3 jobs. I don't remember a time where I wasn't trying to get extra income to come in, and so yeah, it's challenging. I mean, Twigs isn't at a point yet where we have staff, or the ability to pay staff, and so, the last 4 years has been, me volunteering all my time for that, and then trying to balance, bringing in money. Luckily, real estate is pretty flexible with your hours, and most of the time it's after 5, and, now that I'm not giving rides and stuff, I have a little bit more time in that regard. But it's a challenge. It's a struggle every day, because I go out into public and do I push Twigs, or do I go out into public and say, hey, I want to sell a house for you so I can pay my mortgage? And how do you balance that? And I think any new nonprofit feels that. There's a leader in the nonprofit sector that started their own organization that hasn't gone through years and years of not getting paid to do what they do. And obviously that's not why we do it. We do it because we're passionate, and we believe in our cause, but that's not sustainable either. So our hope is that, as we grow, we get enough funding so that, that can be my full-time job and I don't have to have 5 jobs.
No, I think that's wise. So what would be your advice in trying to talk to folks about how to balance your schedule? What is your advice? What is your go-to, your mantra when it comes to trying to divvy up your schedule appropriately?
Have somebody that coaches you through it. I have a great business coach, and I am going to drop her name because she's amazing, Lisa Fisher, and she will hold me accountable. Have you blocked your time off this week? What are you doing? What are your goals? How are you going to get those goals accomplished? What do I need to do to help you get those goals accomplished? And so you need someone when you are an independent business owner, when you're a nonprofit executive director, that is going to hold you accountable for your time, because it's hard to hold yourself accountable, right? Like, it's very easy for me to say to myself, well, you could read a book right now instead of doing X, Y, and Z, which would be my favorite pastime. But no, I think, again, you surround yourself with the people that are good at doing what you aren't. And I have done that. And so I have people that tell me, listen, Beth, you said you wanted to do that this month. What are you doing to get that done?
I think that makes a lot of sense. And so let's talk about, I know we talked about some struggles. What are some milestones, some successes that you've had with your fairly new organization?
A couple of takeaways. I've talked about our volunteer success. So that's obviously huge. That was a really big win for us. I have always been, and I'll tell you, Paul, it took 6 months to a year before I stopped crying every time I got a donation. I literally got tears in my eyes. It didn't matter if it was $25 or $100 or $1,000. I cried. And to this day, sometimes I still cry. But the amount of support our community has for Twigs, the amount of times I've heard people say that I don't know, I've heard about you guys, what you do is wonderful. The amount of businesses that are willing to step up and say, hey, yeah, we'll support you in this cause and help you fundraise, is just really, it's humbling, honestly. I didn't think we'd get as far as we've gotten in this short amount of time. We've helped close to 100 people at this point. And grant you, that was a very slow first year. So within 4 years, it's a lot of people to help with tons of housekeeping, tons of yard care, tons of rides to appointments. And I'm just blown away by it. I think that every day I forget to look back at where we started and where we are now. And I hope to grow even further, but we've had a lot of wins, a lot of amazing things happen, and mostly because our community has been so supportive, and so willing to just step up and say, yep, we're going to do that for you.
That's pretty cool. And so what's the next step? What's the next phase of TWIGS, what are some goals you have going forward to try to grow what you're doing?
The next step is finding enough funding to have myself and one other person be staff. And I say that knowing that that sounds kind of selfish, but what it really is that I want to be able to give 110% to this organization, and I want to be able to have somebody else who can also run the back end of the business so that I can give 110% to making sure we're doing what we're doing and doing it well and effectively. And we need to do that so that we can grow and help more people. We are at a critical point now where we are helping and getting new clients every day. And in order to sustain that, right, in order to program cost out the cleanings and the yard care and keep that sustainable, because people battle cancer for years, sometimes years in treatment, believe it or not.
Mhm.
We have to keep raising money, and that's the crux of any nonprofit is you don't get to grow unless you have the money to do so. And sure, that's any business really, but
Mhm.
a little bit different when you're not selling a product. So that's really what we're concentrating on, is sustainable growth so that we can keep going.
Yeah, I think that's wise. So so is there any collaborations that you have been working on to help um, kind of like help guide twigs into more eyeballs or in different areas? Is there what other, I mean, because the nonprofit community in the area is really strong.
Mhm.
um, and as a newer nonprofit, what who have you looked to kind of like help you get to where you need to go with what you just mentioned?
Well, the community foundation is a huge resource. And we are actually talking to them here shortly, picking their brain about what we can do. What's the next step look like? What is the smartest way to go about this? And I'm always making connections with other nonprofits in the area, because there are like Casa for Kids and Child and Family Services and Helping Women Period. And I mean, I can name 1,000. Davies Project. She was one of the first people I talked to because they give rides. So I think that those relationships are important, because again, they might know somebody or know a grant that I don't know about. And I truly believe that there's enough love to go around. Like, there's no competition between nonprofits. We all understand the struggle. We all know we're doing the important work, and we're all trying to find ways to help each other do that work.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. But you know, you're doing such great work. Uh, However, you mentioned something that you like to do is read. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes.
What are you diving into?
Oh, I read purely for enjoyment. Like, that's my escapism. So I don't tend to read any reality anything. Right now, I actually have it right here. It's a Lisa Jewell book called The Family Upstairs. It's a
Nice.
complete mindless, I don't have to think about it kind of thing.
Well, what else do you do other than reading to help you unwind, get away from the day-to-day, seeing as you have 40 jobs that you do every day?
I walk a lot, and that's probably why Murphy's barking so much, because that's what he would like to be doing right now. And I hang out with friends and spend time with my kids. But yeah, it's I have very simple things that make me happy, so I'm pretty lucky. Walking, yoga, coffee, and books.
That those are all ways to center yourself. Absolutely, because the grind is not a joke. And I
No.
mean, I've seen you only in the capacity of Twigs, and you're out there and doing what you need to do to share the story. And speaking of which, if anybody wants to know more about Twigs and what you do, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Really through our website, and our phone number is on there too if they needed to call, but www.twigsinc.org.
Nice. I really appreciate you being on the podcast. This has been a wonderful conversation and learning more about Twigs.
Sorry, Murphy wanted to join.
That's okay. Murphy had a lot to say. That's okay. That happens. But thanks, Beth. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate being here.
And thank you all for once again taking some time to listen to our program. And don't miss the next episode coming out in a couple of weeks. If there's someone that you know of and you want to hear about their journey, and hopefully they don't have a Murphy because he's really, really, really talkative. No, but anyway, please email us at missioncontrol@UnoDeuce.com. And if this is your first time here, please subscribe on YouTube or your favorite podcast platform and leave a review. Thank you again, and we'll see you next time in the Control Center.